feeding him money constantly, just making SCVs and feeding his ally the money from the rest. I mean, he's just going to be able to warp in Stalkers whenever he damn well pleases. There are these Mutalisks going to stop these turrets from being built, but they're just not going to be able to do a whole lot. I don't like him. It looks like he does have a bit of the one control group syndrome here. There, his second control group is this entire army. I'd like to see him split up these Colossus so he doesn't quite get them, because bringing them in to hold off these Mutalisks is not a good strategy, because they can't hit the Mutalisks. There we see an Ultralisk Cavern going down, making use of that hive and this huge amount of minerals. And a Greater Spire. I don't like the idea of going up to the Tier 3 tech tree on one person at the same time, unless they might be doing a strategy similar to this, which they are, again, not. It looks like he also has an Ultra Cavern. I think they should be focusing on one Tier 3 unit per side. That would be a much better way of utilizing these resources. Here we see Torture moving out with his entire army, still just using that one control group syndrome. I'd really like to see all of these Stalkers and Zealots kind of in the front here. Maybe even the Sentries on a different control group to be able to access those abilities really fast. I mean, here he's got all of these Colossus way out of position. They might get some down, but it looks like he is going to bring these Stalkers and Sentries in. And Sentries aren't the worst against Mutalisks, but it looks like the Mutalisks are focusing down the Colossus, and they do pick off this low health Colossus. And here we go. Here he's just asking for more minerals. Garth getting a little behind there. He did send in, there we go, sending in all his minerals, unless he's building something, which he really isn't building anything. I'd like to see how his upgrades are doing here. It looks like he is getting the attack upgrades. He should also be getting armor or shields. Here's got an idle Colossus. He's not producing out of either of these, even though he definitely has the resources to. He is warping in with most of his warp gates, it looks like. He is using them fairly well. He could be using them a little bit better. He does have a lot of money. Garth has a lot of money too. He should really send that into Torture immediately, so Torture can just get more units. Here up at the front we see this giant battle going on. These force fields are actually kind of hurting his army a little bit more, but it looks like all those Lurkings melted to these Colossus almost instantly, and these Spine Crawlers that they built early on are doing absolutely no good whatsoever. All these force fields aren't going to do a whole lot, because these Ultralisks can in fact trample them. He's still suffering from the one control group. He should really split these up, get these Stalkers out front while these tanking for these Colossus and killing these Mutalisks so that the Colossus are perfectly safe. Because they will, even against Roaches, these Colossus in great numbers will just tear them apart. Here we see his whole army is just sitting back. They should really be engaging. He shouldn't let these Colossus go down. It doesn't look like anything's tagging except for these Mutalisks. These Stalkers should really come in to deal with them, and there they go, blinking up at the Mutalisks, really taking it out. He probably should have saved that blink so he could follow them up to the high ground. These Zealots pushing off these Ultralisks, that's kind of funny. It doesn't look like he is 2-1 on the upgrades right now. He should be getting some more. There he is, chrono boosting the upgrades. These Colossus just harassing the gas, getting rid of some of this income. That's a really good move. All these Zealots rushing in. You guys have Zealot Charge and Stalker Blink, which is another of those benefits of the feed strategy. He can just get like all the tech. These Ultralisks are just going to melt. These Zerglings aren't going to do any good because you've got so many Colossus. Here's a bunch of Ultras just being held up by the Zealots. Not even, I mean, they're obviously not doing that much damage, but just holding them off is plenty because they can get rid of this entire army. And then what's left of his army here can. It looks like, I'm not quite sure this is going... Holy Ultras, that's right. There's a lot of Ultralisks. It looks like he should be taking out these Corruptors. There he goes. That was kind of a useless blink, but he is going to retreat a little bit. It doesn't look like they're going to push out with these Ultralisks. Playing it defensive, probably a good idea because they just took a pretty big hit, and they should probably focus on getting more... just more units to hold off this attack because they are in a lot of trouble here. Garth has still sending in all his money. Here Torture at 2,000. He should really be just making more gateways. Here he does. He should make these into warp gates and just warp everything in. He does have a forward pylon that is going to be help him regenerate his forces really quickly. He's at 193 food. At this point, he should really just be throwing food at the enemy because that is the downside to this, is your army will be 200 and your army max will be 200 instead of 400. So just with the upgrades isn't going to be enough, but you will be able to replenish your army very quickly, especially with warp gates backing up like this. He should really move out. Starting to get some Immortals out, but these Broodlords are actually going to do quite a number. These Stalkers, he should be getting more Stalkers. I'm not sure if he knows they have Broodlords or if they even have a Greater Spire. They do not know at all. Once he sees them, I'd like to see him just getting more Stalkers, taking Blinkle out of the bag and take care of these Broodlords. There he does one blink, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of good, but it looks like all of these Ultras are going to melt with this ridiculous amount of Colossus, and these Broodlords are hanging back, doing a good amount of damage. Look if he does transfuse them, or that might just... Oh, that is just the animation for the Broodlings. It looks pretty similar to the transfuse ability. When he is out of Stalkers, he is not going to be able to deal with these Broodlords, and he's sending in all these Zealots. That is not the right move. He should really be warping in Stalkers. Long distance mining from the gold. He's really got nothing to deal with these Broodlords. This is gonna, just these 5 Broodlords is gonna be enough to hold this back. There he does warp in a bunch of Stalkers. He should just be throwing down so many more production facilities so that once his army goes down, he can just replenish it instantly. Looks like I'd like to see these Stalkers blink up this bridge here, just to take just to take out these Broodlords. We really just focus on these Broodlords. Once those go down, there will be nothing to stop this huge immortal Zealot count for this ground army. These Colossus, he is losing most of them to those Corruptors. He only has 2 left, and there's still 4 Corruptors now. Taking care of these Colossus, but he is retreating with them, not letting them really build up for this expansion anymore, and they are just taking all of the expansions. Garth here, again, doesn't have any units. He's just getting all of his money to Torture, and Torture has so much money, which would, you know, be warranting a big frowny face, but with the feat strategy, it does get difficult to spend all this money, especially when you get maxed this quickly. Look at his food. He's been losing all of these units, and he's still just maxed out on his army because he's able to replenish it so quickly. Their Tool leaves the game, Be My Wife leaves the game, no GG, and that is a great example of just one of the many strategies that just is not evident in a 1v1, and that is what makes 2v2 so interesting, is that you can do things like that. In the future, I will be bringing you a replay that is actually, it's really low level, but it does feature a strategy that Verx, my last co-caster, and I do love to do together, called, well, I'll save that for later. It's quite a little quirky, but I think it will give some ideas, and I'd like to see a lot more of things like this in future replays. If you send me a replay where you do crazy shit like this, it will get casted, because this is what the station is about, seeing stuff like this feeding strategy.